It's Joe. So I was working on the Spitfire here, and I was test fitting the propeller into the nose of the airplane. And what ended up happening was the seam line on top of the nose opened up when I test fitted it. And I was pretty unhappy. I tried to repair it with glue and also paint over it, try and bandage it up, and that wasn't really working too well. So I decided I was going to try and go ahead and strip the paint off and start from scratch and see if I could get something acceptable that way. So I just wanted to share the process and what I decided to do. So check it out. So what I'm doing here is it's the point of no return, and I'm putting lacquer thinner on the nose, and I'm just basically taking the paint right off with a Q-tip. And you're going to go through a couple Q-tips, getting all of the paint off, kind of work it off in layers. And I was just very careful not to have any lacquer thinner drip down the side and cause problems. I just wanted to take off the paint in this one area. So I didn't flood it, I just kind of dampened the Q-tip and kind of focused around this section. As you can see, the lacquer thinner really has no problem taking off the many layers of paint that I use to paint the fuselage. I would definitely wear gloves and also a mask to protect your nose and mouth from breathing in the fumes, as it is quite strong. So now we're just basically going backwards and starting from gluing the seam back into place as you would before you painted it. Once I was satisfied with the two halves being glued together, I went ahead and got some Milliput, as I will be using this to fill in the gap. So with Milliput, you basically mix the two compounds together, and you'll notice it'll start to get slightly warm once you mix them. And you use that to fill in the seam, and you can also sculpt it. It has a long working time. You can shape it, and then once it hardens after a couple of hours, you can then sand it. I find Milliput very useful for those medium to large gaps that regular putty just doesn't measure up to. Here I'm using a toothpick just to kind of roll it and get it to fill into that gap. This is optional, but I'm just cutting away a little bit of the excess to aid the cleanup afterwards. Just make sure that you're not dragging into the fuselage for obvious reasons. Just lightly drag it across. Okay, so here I'm just creating a bit of a mask around the area that I'm going to be sanding so I'm not getting sanding particles everywhere and dust and all of that. This will also help with the cleanup process and also help me focus on the part that I need to concentrate on. So for the sanding, I use a combination of sanding sticks, sandpaper, and nail polisher and buffer to smoothen out the seam line. And you just want to start off with a rough grit and gradually work your way up to a smoother grit. When I got to the sandpaper part, I actually wet sanded it to try and eliminate some of the scuffing, and I thought it worked out pretty well. Once everything is sanded and buffed and smooth, it's time to go ahead and paint. I'm going to be painting the aluminum on the top here because initially I used a bare metal silver spray, and I want to try and basically retrace my steps best I can. So I'm just going to hand brush paint this aluminum color on here. Make sure that you're using light, thin down coats to avoid brush stroke marks, just as you would have painted it initially. After a few layers, you should be good to go. On to the next color, which in this case is the flat earth brown. Now I just need to add the dark green flat onto the top here to finish off the camouflage pattern, and that will basically be it as far as the repainting of it goes. The last step after painting is to go ahead and put the gloss coat back over to unify the paint and to basically sync everything up. Overall, I was very happy with the way that it turned out. When it first happened, obviously it's gut-wrenching, but you know, I tried something and I'm very happy with the results. I'm curious to hear if anybody else has their own ways of doing this, and look forward to trying some new techniques in the future. But thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it.